Welcome back to the movie graveyard. We are digging deep for this one, aren't we, Zach?
We are. Oh, hell yes.
And just to get it right out of the way, because people are always like, are you going to say what the name of the movie is? I'll say 2 Days in the Valley.
Hell yes. And people are like, what the hell is that? People are scratching their head like, what the fuck? 2 days in the Valley? You just made that up. Fucking, this is like Too Fast, Too Furious shit. 2 Days in the Valley, the number two. Like, what the hell? What, you just made that up. No.
If it was a car movie, it would be called 2 Days in the Valley, and instead of an S in days, it would be a Z. Remember that when that was cool?
Fucking, oh yeah, 2 days, 2 valleys. Fucking,
Exactly.
I'm coming already thinking about it.
Amazing. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get it rolling, because there's so much we want to cover in this film.
Hell yes. I saw this for the first time when I'd never heard of it until he brought it up. And then he's like, oh, you want to do it with me? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm always down to fucking do an episode with the fucking go. Hell yes. Fucking, I love digging these graves.
You dig these graves deep.
Hell yeah. And I watched it. And I was blown away because I quickly went to IMDb to log it and like, oh, I watched it and everything. And I was shocked by how fucking low, like underrated this is. Hell yeah.
It's completely fallen off the radar. Like, I almost think it's like a weird thing because like a major studio didn't put it out or something that just made people forget it because it like wasn't shoved in their face or whatever. Speaking of digging graves, I just had a throwback. You remember like when you were a kid and like the commercials for the monster trucks coming to your area would come on? And at the end of the commercial, remember that guy in the voice? He always go, "Grave digger."
Oh yeah,
It'd be
he sounded fucking death metal as fuck.
It's like all echoey, "Grave digger."
Hell yeah.
And like as a kid, you're like, "Oh, that's like the evil truck because it's got skulls painted on the side of it in green and shit."
Fuck yeah, it's basically the Undertaker of trucks.
I think the Undertaker stole Gravedigger's gimmick. Now that I think
he
about
might have fucking what a charlatan shyster.
Exactly. So yeah, we're gonna get it rolling. We have it paused on the pretty much the opening logo thing here. This was made by a company called Reicher Entertainment, and their logo is a little, I don't know, it's like the LA cityscape with palm trees in front of some mountains.
It's literally bootleg Miramax logo.
Yeah, it is. So it says Reicher Entertainment, a Cox company. This is back when they were owned by Cox, I guess. Now Cox owns the world, don't they?
Cox. Every time I see the word Cox, I want to find out their call and like the basically their number to call in and complain and be like, Joe, are you the CEO of Cox? Can you explain to my son why you wrote cock on a billboard for my son to see? I don't want to have to explain to my son what a cock is, okay? Mr. Cox, why'd you name it that?
I always thought that was the most brutal last name because, like, when I was a kid, the Atlanta Braves were really good, and their manager was Bobby Cox, and like they were always on TV for the playoffs. So like every 2 seconds, it's like, and Bobby Cox is pointed, and Bobby Cox.
I used to have a teacher named Mr. Cox, and everybody would make fun of our class. Fucking Mr. Cox.
We actually know somebody with the last name Cox too.
Hell yes, hell yeah. It's weird the kind of shit kids do. Fucking, I diverted the starting of this movie long enough.
Yes, you did. But we always got to take time to talk about Cox. All right, all right. I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, go. And you hear me say go, please hit play on your DVD remotes or your HBO Max remotes.
Hell yes.
All right, everybody. 1, 2, 3, go.
And yeah. If you're lucky enough to have HBO Max, you are watching this in HD right now.
Probably for the next 2 weeks before it disappears.
Low T.
Very low T. Yeah, if there was ever a movie that needed a Blu-ray, like this is it.
It does. Look, this is so underrated. Like, and basically, when I found out this was as underrated as it is, the only thing that came to mind is like, okay, this came out 2 years after Pulp Fiction. It must have been like, oh, you're ripping off Pulp Fiction. And it must have been like a disdain reaction. Like, why would you do that? But like, it's weird because like some of our favorite movies were like, oh, it was a fucking slasher movie. And they were all like, oh, we're going to rip off a slasher movie. And you weren't like, fucking, I'm tired. Like, you were excited. You were like, fucking, I want to see how other people can do it. But like that's literally all it is. Like, and when you boil it down, that idea is it's like it's basically like a crime drama movie told in a weird way narratively, and like that's just a great idea to tell stories in different ways. It makes sense to me.
Well, I mean, but by all means, I'm sure that the people probably financing this movie probably was much easier to get the money to make this after like Pulp Fiction came out and everything. But like I was like pretty annoyed at the time because like I always went and saw like back in the day like Joel Silver movies, Jerry Bruckheimer movies, R-rated action movies. They always had hitmen as the bad guys, so I always grew up seeing hitmen in movies. You know what I mean? And then like there was like a shitload of cop movies all the time. And then it's like, I guess just because, like, you know, finally, like, people after Tarantino started having hitmen and stuff actually be, like, real characters in the movie and, like, leads of movies. Like, they labeled every crime film, which there's always been crime films, like, always. They labeled everything a Tarantino ripoff. And, like, I get, well, obviously, you know, Hollywood kind of goes in cycles and shit. But it's like, I love that period, the 2 to 3 years after Pulp Fiction came out. Everybody's like, oh, this is a rip off of Tarantino. It's just like, these are the kind of movies I like to fucking go to the movies and see. So I never had any complaints. And like, pretty much other than like the Hitman, like a little bit, like the rest of the movie is pretty much like pretty different and original style, I'd say, you know?
Yeah, it's weird how like basically that's part of what was good about Tarantino too is he wears his influences on his sleeve. It's like he's openly about like, oh, that's kind of my thing. I take some of my favorite things from movies, and then like the people were still like, oh, that's just a Tarantino ripoff. It's like yeah, weird how people's minds work. Shit.
I think even Tarantino himself said like he never saw it that way either. He's just like, yeah, they're just crime films, you know, like whatever. But I would say like of all the movies in that wake of whatever Pulp Fiction, I say this is probably my favorite in all honesty. Like
I can't think of a lot of my like the quote unquote Pulp Fiction exploitation genre we're talking about here.
Well, I remember too, like it got to the point where people were like even saying like Gross Point Blank was, you know, Tarantino ripoff. I'm like, nah, Gross Point Blank's so different, like.
I guess I can see like those movies where the narrative is kind of jumping between a group of characters and the thing that brings these characters together happens like later in the movie and we gotta wait to find out. I guess I could like maybe that's Tarantino. Yeah, maybe that's what they were thinking. But I always just kind of I like movies like that. Like that movie Happiness that I've talked about before. It worked just like that. It's just an interesting way to tell a story, and like especially whenever you're writing a story that has so many characters in it, it's almost like pacing. Like the way we think of stories normally being told is like that's probably done for pacing reasons. Like a guy doing it in a more experimental type way, he might just like gradually want to introduce them it might be something that makes complete sense from like a director's standpoint or a writer's standpoint.
I'd say so far this movie is definitely getting into the panty exploitation genre, wouldn't you say?
It is. It's amazing. Big cum's all up in this fucking movie. It's got cum brain already.
Their influence is felt far and wide.
But we are seeing a guy like basically Krug, if you know what that is. Like, he's pulling a Krug from Last House on the Left on basically. He doesn't quite go there. He stops himself when he realizes he's like maybe he realizes, I don't know, he's a weirdo, but like basically this movie is about like I wanted to say it a certain way, but I realized that would have been giving it away. Are we assuming people will watch this movie?
Yeah, I mean we're gonna talk about everything in and out, so say what you want, but
basically the story. This is we're getting ready to see a hit man or a hit gone bad. Because like she the Stacy there getting the sex done to her and doing the sex to the man, she set up this guy.
The sex is getting done to her against her will pretty much.
Oh yeah, my bad. I forgot. But yeah, like she's basically setting up that motherfucker to get killed by this hitman, and that's our boy there. What's his name again?
The guy that was doing the raping.
No, the hitman.
Oh yeah, so the two hitmen we have older guy Danny Aiello, And then his partner is James Spader, who like later we find out they're not really partners. It's kind of like a one-off job. But like, yeah, the movie starts out with them like they got a what do you call it, a tap wire, a bug in the bedroom, so they could tell what's going on in people's house. And apparently Terry Hatcher has broken up with her husband, but he was just staying the night because it was their anniversary. And then he's like, pretty much he's trying to rape her, even though he kind of gives up halfway through. But I mean, it was pretty like harsh. Like you would never see anything like that like in a modern studio movie. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and ultimately, that wasn't part of the setup. He just showed up and fucking did it. So, do we even care that he's got the hit called out on him? Is she morally wrong in the situation? Because she is the one that gets away at the end.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of funny because like you know, like you said, like they just kind of reveal the story in little chunks and cut back and forth between different characters. So like they kind of just cut away there with the hitman going in the house, and you don't know what's going to happen. But at that point, like you don't know who the target is, who's what. Like you don't, you know, like you just know that they're listening and they're making their moves. Yeah. But
I don't remember Dee Wallace ever being this chubby.
Well, I still don't think she is because that's not Dee Wallace.
Fucking exactly. You could have fucking fooled me. She reminds me of Dee Wallace. So I think I'm picturing who she is now, and I'm like, how did I mix them up? But it's like, yeah, she's really looking like Dee Wallace to me. Is it just like, is it tired vision? What is happening?
Yeah, it's actually Louise Fletcher from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I really like this story. We got to talk about this guy. This guy in the movie, Teddy Peppers, played by Paul Mazurski. He's a out of work writer-director. He hasn't made a movie or a TV movie in a long time, so he's like way behind on his rent. He's gonna get kicked out. But Paul Mazurski, he actually started out as an actor, believe it or not. He was in a Stanley Kubrick movie, Fear and Desire, and a bunch of other ones way back, although he was starting from the 50s. And I always knew him as a director. So like when because I knew him, you know, from the age I'm at. Like, I knew him from his 80s. Like, he directed a bunch of movies in the 80s, like Down and Out in Beverly Hills, Moscow on the Hudson. Man, I knew I was going to blank. There's one other really big one. He did, Scenes from a Mall, which I love, which stars Woody Allen, which a lot of people mistake for being a Woody Allen film, but it's not. It's actually a Paul Mazurski film. Woody Allen just acted in it. But, yeah, I love Scenes from a Mall. So, like, when I saw this, like, you know, whenever this movie came out, like I was like, oh, it's so cool. They got a director to act in a movie, you know, and he's playing actual, you know, a real director playing a director in the movie. I was like, oh, that's such genius cast. But I didn't realize, like, yeah, he's directed like 20 movies, but he's like acted in like 70 movies. So
genius.
Pretty much both.
Yeah, I would have known that they casted an actual director. That's clever. Very Chad.
It's a big Chad move. But yeah, like I like this kind of. I love this too. He has like an Emmy. He just uses a toilet paper, like whatever toilet roll holder.
He just flipped off the camera. That was just a fucking sneaky way to fucking flip off the camera and hope nobody knew that's what he was doing.
Yeah. So I guess for people who don't know, this movie came out in 1996. His Emmy said 1982, so obviously it's past it. Now we go back to the hitman, and like they're coming in the bedroom. And, like, it's kind of funny because,
This looks painful.
Would he cut the telephone wire? Or?
No, when he stabs her in the butt. Okay, I might be a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, I think you might be a little bit ahead.
And yeah, like, she got a fucking nasty-ass fucking bruise on her buttocks through the rest of the movie from that.
Well, that's what happens when you have a Stacy butt sticking up in panties or whatever.
They just fucking went in there and like she was off her guard. Like she fucking if she knew they would have been so there, she would have been flexing them buns of steel.
It's kind of funny here though, because like as like the older whatever hitman, you have Danny Aiello. He does his thing where he shoves the guy wakes up, he shoves the gun in his mouth, and he does like a whole intimidation routine, and then you know, Spader then takes over and ends up killing the guy. But, like, it makes me wonder, like, what did they tell Danny Aiello? Did he even know that this was going to be a hit? Because he's playing it like he's, like, intimidating the guy, you know what I mean? Like, oh, don't make me shoot or whatever. But,
I remember thinking, like, imagine waking up to, like, that, like, fucking does somebody putting a gun in your mouth, like, while you're, and then, like, you don't know who they are and shit, like, and then fucking, like, that would be hard to even act that out, because, like, fucking, very Chad. Very Jed. Fucking good shit happening in this movie. The big cum influences are all over the fucking all over the spectrum here.
And we should say the guy that they ended up killing her, Terry Hatcher's ex-husband, this is Peter Horton, who at the time was a pretty recognizable actor. He was in like Stephen King's Children of the Corn and stuff, but I want to say the show was 30-something, which I know you probably won't remember, Zach, but 30-something was like a big kind of dramedy comedy show that was on in the late 80s and early 90s.
Dog.
So this is actually like a pretty known actor to get and come and do like this one scene of the movie, you know, just like they had Louise Fletcher earlier as the landlord.
They did good detail right there, because when he showed him the picture, like basically they're framing like, oh, you've been sleeping with this girl, or he killed. That's what they're trying to frame, like, oh, you killed her or something, didn't you?
Yeah, because they have a photo of her dead, like covered in blood. Yeah,
it's great because if you're watching the movie, when he shows the first one, you could tell it was like her in front of like a screen, and they just put something behind her.
Yeah,
but it makes sense because they're faking the pictures. So it's like a very clever attention to detail. Hell yeah. And
it's clear here now. It's kind of becomes clear that Danny Aiello is like, let me see the picture. Like he's not really in on everything that's going on. And James Spader's interrogating the guy. And I guess we should explain Spader's gimmick here too, right? Like he has a stopwatch on that he wears around on his neck, where before he kills somebody, he counts off a minute and he gives them a minute to like explain their life or something about themselves before he kills them. This is like, I guess I should say now, I was always a Spader fan since I was a little kid, because he did a movie called Tough Turf that I saw on cable as a kid. So to me, he was always like the coolest fucking guy. And like to me, I was like, oh, Spader's like a bad guy, because you know a couple years before this, he was in Stargate and he played kind of like a nerdy guy, and like this one, he was back to playing a badass. Like Spader's really not on screen that much in this movie, but I love.
I like this. Yeah, I like his character. There's something like fucking like you kind of feel like he fucking like it's similar to like in Grandma's Boy. Remember like the character, the fucking JP, who's doing around talking like the robot and shit. But you know, in that character's mind, he believes he's cool as fuck. Like he's walking around, he like in that first scene, like this is what a cool person looks like, and he's just so like. He doesn't hang out with people, so he doesn't know like any better. But like, yeah, he kind of has that same quality, like with the way he's fucking smiling and making goofy, gestures with the Stacy we're gonna meet later. But like, fucking James Spader, like he's a satyr. Fucking, he's one of those things, like that mythological creature with like the huge 8 feet cock. Fucking, he's literally one of those things.
I mean, if there ever was a well-hound shag with a tight circumcision, it's definitely James Spader in this movie particularly. And I thought that was like a great bit of editing too. Did you notice like when Spader put the gun to the guy's head and was going to pull the trigger, like they cut to the tire blowing out in like the next scene, so like you don't even actually see him like shoot him. You know what I mean?
Oh look, this guy is fucking cool. This guy is sassy.
Yeah, well he gets out. He has a flat tire and he like wanders in the road, and like at first I thought he was like coming real hard in his pants over and over is what it seems like, huh?
Yeah, look, he's got one of those big ass neck holes on his shirt. Like why did you stretch that neck hole out that much?
Well, yeah, you're talking about Michael J. White, who plays who we should say is a big time Chad action star, right?
That's him. I didn't even recognize.
Yeah, they put some sun in his hair to make him blonde, and he's playing a gay car thief. And what's funny is it's weird that he's a gay car thief and he's stealing a nice Mustang convertible in front of a gay bar. Like you think if he was a gay car thief, you would go like steal cars like other places where they probably wouldn't know you and recognize you. You know what I mean? Like what are the chances that a gay car thief, or maybe like was he just at the club having drinks, like dancing, and he's like, oh, there's a nice car outside, I'll steal it. You know what I mean?
If you're gonna look into that kind of, if you're gonna look that deep into, things happening, coincident, like this movie's full of them, babe. You could tear this movie apart, and it adds with Pulp Fiction. Why do I keep wanting to call it cult fiction?
Cult fiction. But that's actually the charm of it, though. Like, you know what I mean? It's like And like, I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a deleted scene or something, but like, I like every time I see this and I recognize that it's Michael J. White as that character, I'm like, I want more. But he pretty much just he scoops up the guy who's having the problems with the kidney stones, that puts him in the back of the stolen Mustang, takes him to the hospital.
He literally needs his own spin-off movie now that I know that. Yeah.
Like
We need to.
like it could have been a thing. Maybe he was stealing his boyfriend's car as like revenge, who dumped him or
Mm-hmm.
something. Okay,
Yeah.
this is weird. Like the part where Paul Mazurski goes to walk his dog out in the park, and he runs into this asshole out of work guy who like completely is brutal, going like, "Oh, are you working now? Oh yeah, your last movie was a bomb and all that shit." Dude, I cannot explain it, but you know how there's just certain things for some reason, like the way people talk or the way they do something, or just a scene in the movie. This scene, out of any scene, like has been burned into my brain since the first time I saw this movie. Like it's just. This guy is so fucking brutal. Like,
There's
the questions
something
he
about
asks.
him, like he's playing it almost like, can you not tell it? Like you can't tell if he's just really he can't read social cues and doesn't realize that what he's saying is like degrading, or if he just like yeah, there's something weird about the way he does the whole, and I can't tell if he's being condescending or if he's just really, he doesn't have a clue the way he plays it.
Yeah, like it's brilliant. And that guy, this actor guy, like I don't know him offhand, but like he's so recognizable. I think he's one of those guys that like always had parts on sitcoms and shit when I was a kid. But he's so fucking brilliant, and he's like the perfect age of like just the out of work actor who's probably not going to work anymore because he's too old and everything. You know what I mean? Just the
Yeah.
sweatpants and everything. Just
So yeah, basically people listening, they probably realize, okay, this is one of those movies where like a bunch of people who are going about their day just by happenstance and pure coincidence, they end up all together, and their stories intervene, and it like you basically have to see the movie to realize the greatness of everything going on. This scene here where we meet Eric Stoltz's character, he's basically playing a cop who's undercover, and we meet him. He's trying to basically bust this what they suspect. There's like a Korean like massage parlor, and they're doing like the happy endings and shit like that. So he's going there and kind of testing out, trying to see if they offer him anything. And it like this scene is like fucking almost like, this scene's great because it's like fucking, this chick is very Stacy. Very Stacey, and like fucking, you see he gets like a boner, and you can see the boner, and it's so like fucking. And she's like, fucking, is there anything I can do for you? And he doesn't want to say it because he's got like, if he's gonna catch him, she has to say it. But like the way it's played out is like fucking like you're just on it like, I want her to say yes, and like this just turns into a fucking porno right now. She just starts milking him like right in front of me. Like I want to see him milked. I want to see fucking. I want to see if this chick. I almost said something really naughty there. I shouldn't say. I shouldn't do that.
I was gonna say another thing that's great about this movie with the director John Hurstfield. He was also the writer, and we'll get into a little bit later on how he came up with the idea for this movie. But like, what's great about this is like they don't reveal shit until it's important. Like at first you don't even know he's a cop, and then his badge falls out of his pants. And he covers it up real quick, so it's like it's kind of cool that like you don't really know what's going on at first, and then they reveal. Like, and like that's the thing too, is like, I mean, for all intensive purposes, this is like a comedy / drama. And like, I mean, it's not a very long movie. I don't even think it's 2 hours long or anything, but it's like one of those things where it's mostly just dialogue and character building. But like every single scene, for like pretty much the whole movie until it goes into the final wrap up, it's just like you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know really what the story is. It just keeps evolving and evolving, and it's like even just the little character parts. Like everything in this movie is entertaining. Like. And the tone like changes. What I love about it, it's not just like a one-note movie. Like it starts out very dark with the hitman, and then it goes this like stuff like where like this isn't really like slapstick comedy, but like you're enjoying watching it because like how like awkward it is, because like you can tell she just wants to jerk him off so bad, but it's like
Exactly. And it's sad because we know that he's lying to her, and he wouldn't have let it happen anyway because he's a cop. And it's just like, because I am just wanting her to I just want him to let her jerk him off, her to let her like, I just want to see it happen. And it's just not going to, and it's really sad because she's very pretty. She's very pretty, but
very.
they try to kind of lay on the guilt. And it's almost cool that he says, "Oh, I can't do that," because he realizes that she's working for somebody who probably smuggled her here, and this is her only way to
Right.
fucking get out of the situation she's in. So then it's like fucking that very Chad, fucking King, Big King.
It's weird too because there's something that's like very great, even though it's not a graphic scene. He's just sitting there in a towel, like the way did you notice that part where he readjusts his boner? Like it's very,
Right.
it doesn't seem like a thing you'd see in a movie. It seems like something you see in a
Yeah.
porno. Like it's just
Yeah,
weird.
like that must not have been his real penis. Like they must have had to use a prosthetic and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know. It's just like you said, the details. It's like a detail of something like that most people wouldn't have that shot in the movie. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
obvious
yeah,
they
exactly.
did it to sell the reality of it. Because the lady, whatever, the lady that runs the massage parlor, she's banging on the door saying time's up, and she's like, what do you want me to do? Hurry up! I do it quick. And he could entrap her, but you could tell he just doesn't want to because
And this could have originally been in an alternate universe. This could have been Marty McFly. Fucking imagine.
Yeah, imagine.
That should have been the other verse in that fucking John Lennon song. Fucking Hack didn't even think to include that.
Imagine if Eric Stoltz was Marty.
Exactly.
Skateboarding all around Hill Valley. Ooh, ooh.
Fucking bopping around, listening to Huey Lewis in the news. Fucking
Yeah.
just bumming for rides. I'm gonna hitch a ride on the back of your car. As a kid, I grew up thinking that was just cool to do. Like there's just something you do. Like fucking, and then like knowing as an adult, it's like fucking. If some kid grabbed onto my car and just started driving, I'd be like, what the fuck? Fucking, you'd probably just instinctively stop because you wouldn't want to keep going and then hurt themselves or something.
Exactly.
Fucking low T shit.
Yeah, here we meet Jeff Daniels, who, like, we gotta imagine, like, sometimes you film stuff out of order when it comes out or whatever, but, like, Jeff Daniels is pretty hot in his career coming off of Dumb and Dumber. And, like, I always liked Jeff Daniels. He was in a movie in the 80s called Something Wild with Melanie Griffith, where he played, like, a real kind of straight and boring guy who meets a real crazy woman. But I just always liked him since I was a kid, and, like, this is probably actually my favorite role of his, because he's just, like, typically the burnout cop. And like, I hate to say it, but you know how movies can't have shit in them now, Zach, without being overly political. Like, I feel like if this movie was made now, like, the Jeff Daniels character would just be a complete asshole, but because he really wants to shut down the massage parlor and all that. But I liked it that, Eric Stoltz is like, yeah, like, I feel bad for her, she's not the bad person, whoever's making her, jerk guys off, like, so, like, we should bust the owner of the place, but not her. And Jeff Daniels is like, fuck her. He's like, I grew up here, like, I was born 2 miles from here, I have a house down the street, whatever. He's like, it's... Because Eric Stoltz is like, we never bust, massage parlors. We don't fuck around with this. Like, this is a waste of our time. Why are you doing this? And he's basically saying, because I live here. This is my home. And I'm not going to let it have fucking jerk-off parlors and whatever. That was another thing that I remember from this movie was that little speech. And that was quick. That was like a 30-second scene. But, like, right there, everything about Jeff Daniels' character,
it's like, well, when he puts it like that, it makes sense. Like, fucking, you would want to worry about, like, fucking you don't want the kids getting corrupted, but then like fucking, it's basically telling you that we're all a product of our fucking our upbringing, fucking the people we knew, all that shit. Like our realities are always perception, and fucking hell yeah, it's big chat. But there were shots while they were driving. I didn't want to talk over you, but like it was a really tight shot of James Spader, and he would kind of look over with his sunglasses on. You see the because they're driving, you see like the all the shit behind them as they're driving, and like it literally looked verbatim like fucking you just find one of those memes from like the Rick Astley "Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down" video. Yeah, and it just he looked just like him fucking from that video. And
I know exactly what you mean.
But now we're meeting the Stacy in a movie with Charlize Theron. Is this her first movie?
It is the first movie. We'll talk about it in a second. But this is the scene where the two hitmen, now Spader shoots Daniello in the gut, and like he sets fire, blows up the movie. There's a bunch of cocaine on the ground to make it look like a drug deal gone bad. So he's kind of, and like they kind of don't tell you this here, but this is like right up the hill from like where they killed Terry Hatcher's husband. But yeah, he blows up the car. And Charlize Theron comes up. So Charlize Theron was, for people who don't know, she's from South Africa. She was some kind of dancer, like a ballet dancer, and she finally like gave it up, because it's like your feet get all fucked up doing that and shit. Yeah. So she got into modeling, and like she pretty much went to LA at age 19, and was auditioning for a few months, and like on the same day she auditioned for this movie, she auditioned for a TV show, and she got both. It was like the first time she did anything. So the other one was like a pilot she did or something. She did a couple episodes of it and never went anywhere. And the other thing she got was this. And yeah, only 19 years old. And like I remember like the very tiny bit of buzz that like this movie did have going for it was her. Like people being like, oh, this new whatever actress, she's going to be so great, whatever. And it's like when you look at the fact that this is like a 19 or 20-year-old basically girl doing this role, it's very impressive. You know what I mean? I mean, there's also like, let's be honest, there's also the big time Stacy factor that everybody was, because back in 1996 it was okay to say that somebody was a Chad or a Stacy and that you liked that about them. You know what I mean?
I hope it still is. I hope that fucking I don't travel to every corner of the internet, but I would hope that fucking that people don't get that fucking hardcore about it.
Every time I see somebody like trying to make a movie or TV show now, but with a Stacy in it, all I hear is complaints about the male gaze, whatever that means.
We are gazing at the screens itself. It is a movie.
Exactly.
This is how they've always cast me. Look, that statue, it's like a shell around a person. I thought it was like a big giant cockroach. I'm like, why does he have a statue of a big giant fucking cockroach? Oh, that cockroach has human feet. And then it kind of dawned, oh, that's not a cockroach.
Well, because
look, the movie just went vertical.
Because you're a little bit ahead of me. Like you skip past the part where it's revealed that Danny Aiello lived. He had a bulletproof vest on. He rolled down the hill after the car blew up, and he has a wig on, and that's very important to the story.
Okay, are you not seeing the doggy fucking swimming?
No, like his wig just fell off right now.
Let me know when you see a doggy swimming, because if you're that bit behind, you might be watching a different version.
For some reason, the streaming version and DVD version are playing at different rates. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like here comes the guy with the kidney stones with his assistant. And yeah, it's like a seashell with two people fucking in it, and they're moaning and coming, like sounds are coming out of it. I mean, it's not real people, it's like dummies. It's like a piece of modern art. And they never exactly say here, but like basically he's like a modern art dealer. That's why he has all the weird shit around his house. Most of it's like weird bondage art and stuff. Although he does have like a giant pair of sunglasses by his pool that for some reason factored big time into the marketing of this movie.
Yeah, whenever I said this movie just went vertical, I was referring to that shot where it's filming up through like the white picket fence, and it just looks like fucking. It's one of the.
Okay,
it's
doggy
like,
swimming.
Okay, yeah, I immediately thought like when I was watching it this time and last night or the night before, I was like, the movie's vertical now. I'm watching this on my iPhone. It really did fuck with my mind.
Really did. Even though that was like a concept that didn't even exist when they filmed this movie.
Genius.
And we should say that was like a big deal. Danny Aiello didn't want to do that or whatever. They wanted to shave the top of his head to put the wig on because Danny Aiello had hair. He wasn't bald like that. And he was so afraid that like the word would get out. So like everywhere he went, like he would explain to people, no, I'm not really bald. I'm just doing a movie. Just I want you to know I'm not bald.
Fucking see, that's how weird men are with that insecurity. It really is like, it really like. I remember when I noticed like, oh my god, my hair's thinning out. It really did. It felt like fucking like that was like the end of a chapter in my life, and it would never be the same. Fucking the weird thing you go through, midlife crisis, like all this shit is. I feel for people that going through shit like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember when I was a teenager, man, and I saw that like the hair in my temples was like noticeably thinner than the rest of my hair, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna have a receding hairline. And like, yeah, like I've had one pretty much ever since my teens, but I'm just holding on to what I have.
Yeah, that's what's so great. Whenever Gene Roddenberry, he was doing Star Trek Next Generation, he wanted to cast our boy fucking to play Picard, and fucking I want to call him John Stewart. That's not his name.
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. He's like, well, what about the baldness? Wouldn't they have found a way to cure that by now? And he's John Roddenberry without seeing the. He's like, by then they will have realized that there's no reason to even notice that shit. They won't even care, bro. And it's like fucking enlightenment, big cum.
Talk about a Chad mindset.
Exactly. He basically is like the fucking stigmata of fucking coming through a person.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this character, fucking, she's basically working for this dude who, yeah, the dude. Sadly, our boy James Spader, he's not. He is a satyr, but like fucking for whatever reason, his big concrete cock, it wasn't on hard that time. It's supposed to be hard all the time. That's what makes a satyr a mythical creature. But like fucking the blood wasn't not there. But because like he did not succeed, and the guy he was killing to frame and set up, fucking he survived, but he never finds out till the end of the movie. But like fucking yeah, we're going through his journey now. He is not having a good day.
Yeah, so like for a little bit, and a pretty decent chunk of the movie, it becomes what's his name? I won't say Cosmo, but it's not it. It's something like that. It's like Cosmo Pismo, but yeah, it's Danny Aiello's bad day here, and like we find out what's going on out by the pool. Is Danny Aiello has the dog that was swimming in the pool that belongs to the art dealer guy here. He has him at gunpoint. And there you see Danny Aiello sitting on those big sunglasses, Zach.
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
Like 3/4 of the marketing, like the complete marketing for this movie, if you look at different posters and the DVD cover I got, is Charlize Theron, the dog, and those glasses. Like there's even a part, like a couple posters where the glasses are like giant, like looming over the city, and I'm like, the glasses are such not a part of the movie. like they're never emphasized. Like the dog, okay, I get a little bit, and the dog was in the trailer and stuff, but here's where we kind of get, I say, I think it works, but we get kind of like the most what do you call it, like slapsticky humor, is that Danny Aiello is definitely afraid of dogs.
See, basically, you were just implying that, like, basically, you were getting ready to see. Basically, anytime you notice shit like that in a poster, it's because that's what the Illuminati are trying to make us notice. So, technically, whatever this movie is trying to say, ultimately, it's defined by that shot of a dog in the sunglasses. So, fucking, like, what could it be saying? Fucking, we're all canines, we're all dogs, we're all fucking mutts, and Big Brother is watching us. And the future's so bright, he has to wear shades. Maybe, I don't know. Fucking, it's hard to tell.
Future's so bright, you gotta sit on shades.
Exactly. Fucking the concept of a man sitting on shade, like the thing we use to reflect, the future we have, and then like fucking sitting on it, and like what is that? What is it implying? I don't know. But like I remember noticing, like certain shots, it looks like. Well, now it looks like, did he just shave his head and then have to wear the wig and everything the whole time, or are there certain shots where it's just like his real hair?
Yeah, like whenever his hair looks kind of normal, I think it's his real hair, and then he wore the wig. But
I noticed that. I was like, later on in the movie, it's like, oh, that's not a wig, because it actually looks like a realistic kind of like thinning in an area or something.
Yeah.
Very Chad, though.
The very Chad reaction that the dog notices that his toupee fell off.
Big Chad. Fucking the dog is enlightened. He knows. He's big cum-brained.
But I was gonna say, I don't know if you remember this, Zach, but this was becoming a motif in Danny Aiello's career, being afraid of dogs. If you remember his appearance in the amazing Larry Cohen film The Stuff, Danny Aiello played a marketing executive to help create the ad campaign for The Stuff. And he had a dog that was barking at him and was very mean because he was feeding the stuff to the dog, and the dog wanted his treat.
Amazing. Fucking Aiello literally should start a band called Aiello Speedwagon.
Yeah.
I would and play 80s hair metal. Fucking fun fact about REO Speedwagon, they actually are from my neck of the woods. They're like from a little town, like literally like 30 minutes away from. They're kind of hometown heroes to a lot of people.
Yeah, REO Speedwagon is actually not bad. I always figured when I was a kid, they were pretty big when I was a kid. I always figured they'd be pretty corny or whatever. But a couple years ago, my local grocery store was like, I guess they stocked up on CDs for Christmas, and then they didn't realize people don't buy CDs anymore. So then, like in January, they closed them out. I bought a Billy Joel album. Another guy, Billy Joel, I thought was corny. I bought a Billy Joel album called 52nd Street, and I bought an REO Speedwagon album called High Infidelity, and both of them were super fucking Chad albums, and I listened to them over and over, and like, I actually kind of became an REO Speedwagon fan after that.
My parents always liked them, so like their hits were like burned into my fucking skull. Like they had like the greatest hits, And like, yeah, because they grew up knowing people and knowing, oh, like, oh yeah, we knew those guys and they knew them and fucking, and yeah, it was just kind of hometown people. Like, everybody knew everybody. Very Chad. But this scene is
Yeah.
very Stacy.
Very
Very
say.
Stacy.
This is where Charlize Theron comes out of the bathroom in the hotel room with in full lingerie, acting fully sexy, getting her femme fatale look on.
This literally, like, if this movie was as known as Pulp Fiction, this would be like one of those scenes people reference, like, because
Yeah.
it was like, oh, that scene, oh, what a hot scene, fucking heart throbs on screen, fucking being steamy, fucking to be on those top countdowns. Did he just start masturbating there a little bit?
Who? James Spader?
James Spader looked like he just started fucking stroking it a little bit.
Yeah, he's very much into the scene. And there's the part where he puts the ice down on his dick because for some reason he doesn't want to blow a load already. But then
Amazing.
he puts the ice in his mouth.
I thought you were gonna say he eats his cum. I was gonna fucking
Well,
get so
he
happy.
does that later, but
That's the power move. That's when you really fuck with everybody's mind. Whoever you're having sex with, it's like, no, that's not for you. That's for me. Well, that's the power move. But this is a great scene. I don't see. I often wonder, how do actors go about filming scenes like this? Like, what if you were close enough, and then you actually did get, like, aroused, and then like they could feel it through the poking through the shorts. Weird.
Everybody claims that they don't, but then again, when like you do stuff like this, like, I could see. I mean, I can see either way. Like, I get it's not a sexy situation because, like, we're watching the finished scene, but they're just doing the same like movement over and over and over, and all these people are watching. But
I always hear that these are never fun to shoot, even though they look like loads of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, like I shot one as a director / camera person. But it was very awkward. And what was weird was like the female who was doing all the nudity in it and everything was probably way less uncomfortable than I was. Like they always you have all these people that say sex scenes are the worst thing that could ever be in a movie because it's all these men exploiting women and stuff. But when I had to shoot one, I was probably
that right there, with the way they like it's showing them have sex, and it almost looks like there's like an orgasm or something, and then like it starts cutting to the next scene, but you can hear the sound of her stirring the macaroni before it switches. I thought when they started playing that sound and they were having sex, I thought he just literally started pissing cum inside of her.
Oh my god!
You could just hear it.
Well, yeah, we get straight up Theron nudity, and he took the ice cube that was on his balls, then in his mouth, and he rubbed it on her nipples, and it just amazing, like choreography there. But Charlize Theron, I should say too, because there's really not a lot of behind the scenes. You guys want to go and look up the 2 Days in the Valley reunion on YouTube. Happened in 2016, I believe. At I think the theater was called Cinefamily Los Angeles. So it was the director, Charlize Theron showed up, and Glenn Headley, who plays the assistant here, and then also Catherine Hardwicke. I didn't know Catherine Hardwicke was involved in the making of this film. She went on being the director of movies like 13 and the first Twilight film. She was actually the production designer, and she actually had to make all these weird pieces of art at the art dealer's house, like the giant sunglasses and the shell of the people fucking with the people fucking inside and all that. So yeah,
that's great. That's genius, fucking Stacy.
And they had like Danny Aiello calling on the phone, but I thought it was interesting that 3 women showed up because like as much as there's like, because you could call this movie if you wanted to 2 Stacys in the Valley, like as much female nudity and exploitation and whatever you want to call it. And like it was like all these women showed up to the reunion pretty much to like talk about how awesome the director was and how they loved making this movie.
Dang. Did the director go on to make other movies that I'd never heard of? Like
he did, but like I'll look him up real quick. But like, there's nothing that stands out that to me was like even anywhere near like on the level of this movie.
Yeah, what if the genius that comes out of directing is just like shit that was told to him, like, oh yeah, direct it like that guy Tarantino did his movie, like. But it works. It's like kind of like a happy accident if that is the case.
Yeah, I don't think it really is too much like Tarantino though, because like I was going to tell you, I mean, obviously we can't hear it right now because we got headphones on talking to each other, but did you notice, like, I felt like the music in this movie was intentionally like completely different than anything like Tarantino did, you know what I mean? Like,
It's definitely, it has very different. Basically, it could have been like, like like this is they're operating off of just one Tarantino the movie at this point. It's kind of like fucking like like looking back at Halloween and being like fucking things Halloween of Michael does in Halloween kind of seem like out of his character, and it's like, well, he wasn't a character yet. Like, yeah, it's possible. Like, I usually don't want to think that goodness happens out of an accident, but it's possible, I guess, sometimes.
yeah. So our boy had been working, who made this movie, he'd been working for a long time as a writer mostly, but then he had some directing too. Unfortunately, he directed Two of a Kind, which was like trying to be the spiritual sequel to Grease, where our boy Travolta and Olivia Newton-John play angels during the apocalypse. I remember that being a movie that didn't go over too well at all.
That sounds fucking incredible. That sounds amazing.
But it came out like 1983. Let me read the plot synopsis to you. When God decides to destroy Earth, four angels aim to redeem mankind through a young man and woman with their own troubles. So the angels got to make sure Travolta and Newton-John fall in love in order to stop God from destroying Earth.
That sounds amazing.
This is
that should have been like the mythology behind like fucking Scientology. Like what the fuck were they thinking with what they came up with when they had that to work with?
Yeah. So, I mean, he did direct some stuff. By the way, that was a horrifying scene when Terry Hatcher finally woke up next to her husband, who was like, his fucking head was like half blown off. There's blood everywhere. That
would be a fucking crazy experience, yeah. So the way it's shot too is really well done, yeah.
Yeah, it was, and like the overhead shot of her running out of the house was really good too. So
there's something about the way he was laying there with his brain splatter reminded me of the guy from fucking Pet Cemetery.
Oh yeah, the jogger guy.
Yeah, the guy that fucking visits Mr. Crane fucking every night. Very Chad.
So right after this one, he did Don King Only in America, which is a biopic of Don King with Ving Rhames. I think that was like an HBO movie that was very like big. And then a couple years after that, he did that movie with 15 Minutes with De Niro and Ed Burns, which I didn't think was a bad movie when it came out, but it's, nothing great. Then he did a couple TV things. Then he returned to feature films with Bobby Z, a film starring our boy Paul Walker. And Lawrence Fishburne. And I've seen parts of Bobby Z on cable.
Why did they pass up the fucking opportunity to bring back Walker Texas Ranger with Paul Walker as the lead?
Oh, they fucked up.
That is something mankind should never fucking forgive Hollywood for.
Then a couple years after that, he made a documentary called Inferno: The Making of the Expendables. He made a movie called Reach Me, which I'm not familiar with, and then he did one of the direct-to-video movies of sequels of Escape Plan with Stallone and 50 Cent. And that was the last movie he made a couple years ago. So very sad.
This character here, he's really interesting. Like he's basically basically they set up that the guy who used to be a director and is having a hard time now, he's like suicidal basically, and he's on the verge of like basically he brought his little gun here and his dog. He's visiting basically his he's widowed, so I think probably his wife. Like the one love he had, he's coming, saying goodbye.
I think he said it's his mom later. He clarifies it was his mom. It was his mom's grave. He went to because she was a nurse in World War II.
Well, yeah, fucking like if it was, that's the Chad thing to do. Like fucking those people that never fucking find. They say that a lot of subconscious. Whenever you're looking for your Stacy, your wife, you're looking for someone that reminds you. Not like you want to fuck your mom, but it's like it's
somebody that's just as good. Like
exactly, fucking. It's just that bond. The instinct, baby.
So this was the scene I was waiting for. It's in that reunion. He goes into it. The director. This is how he came up with the movie. Actually, he he was very frustrated. He had wrote, I forget who it was about, but he had wrote like a script that was like, I think based on somebody famous or maybe based on a famous book. And he was trying to get it made into a movie so he could direct for years and years. And he said he did 25 drafts of the script trying to get people to finance it, and nobody did. So like he just said fuck it one day. He went crazy. He took all the different copies of the script he had. He burned it in his like barbecue. He like poured all his gasoline. He burned it. Like it went all crazy. The fire went everywhere. He said fuck it. He jumped in his car. He didn't know where he was going, and he ended up in the veteran cemetery. Probably the same one you see in the movie, but he said a veteran cemetery. And he was just wandering around the cemetery by himself, and he didn't say he was suicidal, but he said he was thinking bad thoughts, and he was totally lost. And he came to a grave of a veteran that was the same name as Danny Aiello's character. And then he went over and he saw another. So like all the characters in the movie, their names are based on the names he saw in the grave that day. And he said he stayed in the graveyard all that day. And he took out a tape recorder and he started making up this story saying, oh, like so-and-so is a hitman and he gets hired and he walks over here. And like, so he was just literally walking to the cemetery, and he came back the next couple of days and did it again. And he said he wrote the script within 3 days after doing that and going to the cemetery. So it's a pretty interesting story. It's
fucking Chad. That is some Chad shit. See that? Like, yeah, like, you can't get that one project you're trying to do finance. Like, he probably like burning that shit. He probably felt like fucking, I guess that's it, man. Fucking give up on the dream. And then he fucking stumbled into fucking his new story. Very Chad.
Yeah,
see,
just out of nowhere.
Big Cum can fucking do positive things. The influencers out there. Every once in a while, they let a good story through the algorithm.
It's such a sad scene in the movie, though, when the director guy is trying to give his dog away to this nurse lady. Like, first of all, he's ready to blow his brains out, and then he hears a car pull up and sees this nurse lady going to the grave of, I can't remember if it was her husband or father, whoever. And like, it's so pathetic, that scene. Like, it tugs at your heart so much when he's trying to convince her, like, take this dog, you know? Yeah. And then she realizes like he's kind of fucked up, and she's like, oh, like why don't you come with me, and I'll show you to the I'll let you meet the guy that I'm going to give the dog to. So it's like, if it wasn't for that, he would have blown his brains out right then and there.
Yeah, so like his ultimate arc and the way it ends for him is kind of like a direct analogy to how it happened with the director writing the script. Very Chad, yeah. And like, yeah, it does. It's one of those movies that ends, and it seems to have like kind of a moral compass. It's kind of like, oh yeah, fucking, you never know. Like fucking, you could go on to do great things later on. Fucking baby, the future doesn't exist yet. Fucking, we're just waiting for it to happen, and anything can happen. Hell yeah.
Like, it could be shit today, but yeah, you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What could happen tomorrow? But yeah, like, I mean, geez, what are we? Like, we're pretty much we're like 48 minutes into this movie, so we're like halfway through this movie, and like we still, like, the story is still unfolding, you know what I mean? Like, it's still, people are still meeting each other, going in new directions. Like, I gotta say, like, I know they do it to make movies, like, kind of easier to understand and more sellable and whatever, but, like, movies nowadays that are like 2 hours and above, they need to take a lesson from some of these older movies, I think, and realize don't blow your load. Don't completely set everything up in the movie in the first 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like that's now a rule now. Like, they almost think that our brains turn off from that. Like, maybe they've got data that says it does, but like that doesn't mean like we're still like, well, yeah, it's hard telling. Like, I've definitely seen those, but it almost seems like because they make movies like that, it leads to you doing it because like they're trying to like compensate for it. Maybe it's a weird.
Yeah, like, going back to, the director of this movie, his story kind of correlating with the director character in the movie. It, like how we were saying, like, like the frustration of how he was trying to get that one movie made and whatever, and then he just came up with this movie real quick. It's like, that's gotta be like, when you look at people and like their careers and stuff, that's gotta be like sucky when like you make a movie that's like really fucking good, but like it just doesn't do anything money wise. So then you just have to turn around and go and like make schlocky shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like you did your job, you made a good movie, but just nobody fucking cares. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh, him eating those pancakes. I think he's eating pancakes. It just made me want some pancakes, and my brain flashed back to like a couple days ago. I was going through the grocery store, and I saw that they have fucking Cap'n Crunch fucking pancake. Amazing.
amazing.
That
It was
just sounds cum-inducing.
yeah, pancakes are weird because they're like one of the few foods. Say that 3 times fast. They're one of the rare foods that when you see it in a movie, it makes you want them. Like if you see people eating soup in a movie, you don't want to go eat a bowl of soup afterwards. But pancakes, it's like because I mean, I guess maybe some people eat pancakes on a regular basis, but to me, they're like a once every 2 or 3 months type deal. But yeah, like you see them, or maybe you see a commercial, and it's just one of those few foods that like really fucking make you want to go eat them.
Exactly. Oh hell yeah! So like now, do we bring up that the Stacy who set this all up? But no, we don't know that yet. She's actually like a famous sports
Olympian, yeah.
Olympian, Big Stacy.
Terry Hatcher, yeah.
You think this is happening during that season where she smoked weed and got fucking kicked out of the Olympics?
No, I don't think so.
Fucking.
Can you imagine though? Because you know how everybody gets busted for doping back then. Could you imagine like the Olympic people back then? How like they just did all that shit, like all the rules, the strict shit, and didn't eat this and didn't do that, and didn't take these supplements, and like they had to do all the shit naturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder if anybody really did it, or if they were just really good at hiding it.
Well, like I know the Olympics back then, like if you seen the German women, they were all on steroids, and I think they eventually got busted for it. But yeah, like I mean, could you imagine though, like Terry Hatcher, she's in it's like a tank top, but it's not a tank top. It's like a halfy tank top, and then a pair of panties, and covered in blood for like, geez, probably like 3/4 of her scenes in this movie. That'd be like some tough shit to fucking film.
See, this is what's so interesting about having a movie where it has a bunch of different characters and things happening simultaneously. Is it's like we're seeing her now, and it seems like, oh, this is the scene that should have proceeded right after they killed her, knocked her out because she's just waking up. But it's like fucking, it's over halfway into the movie now. Fucking,
right?
Yeah, there's something like very interesting about the very Chad.
Yeah, and like in your head, you kind of have to, like you said, like you have to like put it together in your head that like all this shit is actually happening at the same time. But since we're not like watching all this shit happen in like 4 different split screens, we see it in chunks, like this chunk over here, this chunk over here, but it's all happening actually at the exact same time. You know what I mean?
I always like that kind of like narrative. One of those cliches I always really like in the sitcoms when they would do it. It's called the what is it referred to? The Rochaman Effect. And it's based on a movie called Rochaman about basically a bunch of different characters who an event happens, and then it takes place afterwards, and they're all telling their version of events, and everybody's version is slightly different because they all see it differently, and maybe some of them are lying, and like they would do that a lot in like sitcom. Like there was an episode of King of the Hill that did that. Fucking there was a couple. Like
I think
was
Family Matters did it too.
Yeah, very very Chad.
But yeah, like I want to say the thing that's interesting about like this chunk of the movie is like the way the writer director kind of leads you in like what you're used to seeing in other movies. The way like they stumble just accidentally, the 2 cops accidentally stumble upon Terry Hatcher running out into the road all bloody, and then they go to her house and they start looking at the crime scene. And like Jeff Daniels immediately is like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here! We can't touch anything. You'll fuck up the crime scene." And Eric Stoltz is just grabbing evidence here and there, going, "Oh, look, I found this and other shit." it's like based on the way other movies go, you think, oh, these two cops who they work vice, they don't work homicide, but they stumbled across it, so they're going to be the ones who solve the murder, and they're going to stop the bad guy at the end, and they're going to, and it's like it's kind of funny the way it ends up playing out is like it's not the way other movies would do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's kind of smart too, the way they implanted the idea that maybe the guy's wife set him up to do it, because whenever they brought the cigarettes, it's like, do you smoke? And then she's like, oh no, they must have dropped it. And then he notices she said they must have dropped it. How did you? Yeah. But Jeff Daniels is like, oh, you're being too fucking, like, you're thinking about it too hard, dude. She meant they. Like,
it's like a figure of speech.
Yeah, it's a figure of speech, and in a way, it's like, he's right. Like, she might have said they because she didn't know how many were involved. She doesn't know it's a man or a woman, so just say they. That makes complete sense. But like, maybe Eric Stoltz was right, but for the wrong reasons. Like, maybe he got lucky and just guessed right. That's kind of funny.
Well, that is what's funny, because you think, oh, he's because we know what Jeff Daniels and Eric Stoltz don't know. We know it was two guys. We know it was they. You know what I mean? But it's like, so like in your head, you think, oh, Eric Stoltz is figuring it out. He's going to unravel the big thing. And it's like, yeah, he got that one little thing right, just like he says, a lucky guess. But the rest of his cop skills and detective skills, he actually sucks as bad as Jeff Daniels says he sucks.
Jeff Daniels is dog. What a national treasure, Jeff Daniels. Like, fucking, has he ever had a beard in any other movie? Is this the only one?
There was one called Gettysburg that was about Civil War shit, where he had a big beard. And actually, yeah, he probably filmed it like right around the same time as this, because he kind of has the same hair and beard. But
that right there was the biggest laugh in the movie for me.
Which one?
When he walked in and freaked out seeing a dog with a human face. But it's just some of his abstract art. Yeah. It's done so well, and it got the same reaction from me. Like, what the fuck?
Well, you know what's so funny too is it looks exactly. Remember Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2?
Yeah.
Where that dog comes running up with a human face on it.
It looks like kids with like weird face masks on. But like, basically, this character that collects this abstract art, he's like super hoity-toity and vain, so he has a statue made to look like his face on. Why it's on a dog, who knows? But like, it's just abstract art, and it's that was like the biggest laugh for me in the movie.
I think I finally figured it out in my brain. I could be wrong. Somebody would probably be listening to this and say, "Oh, you dumbass, that's completely wrong." But I think I finally figured out why our two versions of the movie are like not really synced up. Okay. I think because I'm watching the DVD, which is like 30 frames a second, and you're watching like the HD stream, which is probably the original 24 frames a second. So like my copy keeps like repeating frames to make it fit, and it's like, because I'm like exactly like 1 minute behind you. You know what I mean?
That is weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Never thought about it. So we gotta make sure we're on the same source copy from now on. But oh well. It's, it always, even when we're completely synced up, I always skip back and say, oh, we just missed a couple minutes ago, so it doesn't really fucking matter. But yeah, it's like, if I had to say there was a weak link in this movie, it's kind of like the art dealer guy, like as a character, because he's just like annoying the whole time, and he's just kind of Danny Aiello's like punching bag, like a guy to like make fun of, and because you can tell Danny Aiello is like a very typical like Italian guy in this movie, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, very like, well, yeah, but kind of like one of those guys, like the fucking, he has kind of that wise guy fucking swag, like you're not sure if he knows what he's doing or if he's just fucking figuring it out as he goes along.
And the art gallery guy, he's just like kind of a skinny, and I always thought he was supposed to be British, which I'm 99% sure he is. But then the nurse who plays his sister, she doesn't seem to have a British accent at all.
Yeah, he's probably just supposed to be that guy. Yeah, that annoying guy. That's just, he happened to be there, and so now he's involved. Well, right here is where we find out that fucking the Stacy ass fucking chick this is where we find out that she hired the hitman, baby, and these Stacys are in cahoots. They're in cahoots.
Well, it's also brilliant too. Another great thing about this movie is they introduced these two detectives, a lady and the man's played by Keith Carradine. Another, again, that guy starred in movies around this time. I mean, started in movies for a long time, but again, like they're throwing you off. They're introducing all these big characters in these, I mean, big actors in these small roles, and you think like everybody's going to end up being like a big part in the finale of the movie, and it's interesting how many of the people like end up in. Like I almost think you kind of probably couldn't get a script like this financed now, because like this movie is kind of like the Scream effect before Scream, where like, oh, we put Drew Barrymore in it, but she's the first person to get killed. Like this movie, it's like they kind of sidestep you, saying like, oh, we cast this recognizable actor in this small role, so you think they're going to be like a big part of the movie, and then they don't. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. You know what I just thought of? Like it's probably because I'm high. It just entered my mind. Fucking Charlize Theron is like the white chick's version of Tyra Banks.
Interesting.
Fucking that is Tyra Banks with a fucking white person suit on. I am convinced.
The white chicks version. Well, I guess we should say, because like to me, I mean, obviously this is her first film. This is the first thing I saw Charlize Theron in. So like when she showed up in other movies, I'm like, she looks different. Like she never looked the same to me. And like her eyebrows are like really thin, but like I finally put it together. I was like, why does she look so different in this? And in that reunion that I was telling you about, I watched the video of. She was like, yeah, and she's like, and then in the movie, she's like, and I saw the movie on the big screen, and my giant fat fucking face was on the screen. And it's weird because I looked at it, because I mean, you see her completely nude in this movie. Her body is 100% fit, but for some reason her cheeks are bigger in this. And like, I don't know what, I guess it's just like a nutrition thing, because I never liked it when she got like too skinny later on. Like I think she's actually prettier in this movie than she is. I mean, any version of Charlize Theron's pretty, don't get me wrong. That's why she's a famous spokesperson, model, whatever. But like, I noticed that. Like, I guess that's just what you would call baby fat, because she was like 19. It's just, before you really start like hitting the gym and eating all them proteins and bullshit. You know what I mean?
That strikes me as something she probably noticed and nobody else did. Like,
when she was stripping down to her lingerie and didn't have an ounce of fat on her whole body, nobody was like, oh, your cheeks are kind of big, Charlize,
It's probably one of those things. Like I think we can get like so used to like fucking some flaw that we make it bigger, and we do kind of get part of that. Maybe it's like a mild form of like the fucking what's it called? Dysphoria. What do they call that?
Fucking dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia.
Body dysmorphia. Yeah, something like maybe. I always thought that. Yeah, it's the weird things we fucking notice and like become like cripplingly, they hold us back. Very low T shit.
It's completely wrong. So basically, the plot flips here when you see that Terry Hatcher's character was in on it with Spader and Charlize, and basically, it's kind of like a botched hit, because they were supposed to kill her husband somewhere else. Like, she had no idea they were going to kill him at her house, you know what I mean? Like, so, like, she's pissed, like, like, I got brains all over me and all this shit's happening. And then, like, basically, the money she was going to pay them $30,000 to kill him. Because I guess we should say that, like, when they got divorced, or they're going to get divorced, or whatever it is, like, she has to pay her bum husband alimony, even though he's, like, always, like, because he had, like, an affair with Charlize Theron. I guess that was the initial, like, hook. They were going to lure him away with Charlize and then kill him, but something, it never went through or whatever. So that's why they had to kill him at the house. So so she was going to pay him $30,000 in cash, and she had it in the safe, and James Spader's like, because now there's like all kinds of cops investigating the crime scene at the house and everything. So James Spader's like, oh, I'm just going to go get the money. I don't give a fuck. It's in the safe. And first they're like, oh, why'd you put it in the safe? She's like, well, I didn't know you're going to fucking kill him in my house. Like, which if you think about it, that is like one detail that would completely derail a plot like that. You know what I mean?
That furry suit and he's got there is very on fleek.
Oh, it is for sure.
Fucking, is he a furry? Is that just his fucking personal collection? Fucking, this is art, or is that just his suit on a fucking mannequin?
Did he take his suit off a mannequin?
You take the suit off. I hate when I'm trying. I tried to say a funny line from a movie, and my voice cracks like
Yeah.
that. Oh, I gotta re-say it because it didn't come out like it does in movie.
Yeah, you gotta say.
Fucking Chad.
Speaking of Power Chad moves, I saw a photo of our boy the Reeves from the Matrix 4. And it's totally just him with long hair and a beard looking like a 58-year-old man. I'm
So
like, oh.
they're having him do the beard on it. Fucking,
Yeah.
that's probably the way to go because when he shaves, you can see the age.
And the best part was he was riding on the back of a motorcycle that Carry-On Moss was driving.
Fucking Chad. Fucking Chad.
So yeah, so I guess the scene that I'm on, I know you're a little bit ahead, Zach, but this is like the scene where everybody came together, the director, Danny Aiello, and then the assistant lady. It's very unfortunate in the last, I guess starting in 2014, we lost all these people. So Paul Mazurski passed away. He was in his 80s. A couple years after that, Danny Aiello passed away. And then, and then or no, I think actually Glenn Headley passed away. She was the youngest out of them. The lady who plays the assistant, she passed away a couple years ago.
This movie does not seem old enough to have a bunch of dead actors.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Like, I kind of get Mazurski and Danny Aiello because they're in their 80s. But yeah, Glenn Headley, I think she was only in like her very early 60s. And she just had a freak kind of like blood clot type thing in her lung happen. And
Yeah.
And then unfortunately too, I didn't even know this till today. I was reading about Danny Aiello's death. His son just died like a couple months ago. His son was actually 60 years old or 65 and had been in a bunch of movies with him, like Do the Right Thing and a couple other ones. But it was very sad.
Let me know when you see Jeff Daniels holding a super soaker in his car.
Awesome.
And then I'll press play so that we're more on time. They did. They got quite a bit ahead.
Yeah, I should have done that trick where I set my DVD. Or actually, I should have just watched the stream with you. But I was like, the thing I like about this DVD is the subtitles are giant, so you can really read.
Hell yes.
And then, like, I know you skipped past it, but right now I'm seeing. I love that scene too, where Daniels and Spader were like in different cars at the stoplight together, and like Spader just looked over at Jeff Daniels, like he didn't know he was a cop or anything. Yeah, he's holding a super soaker in the car right now.
Oh yeah, fucking big concrete cock. And like James Spader, he is an interesting character. He seems cool with his court. Like when you think about it, movie wise, is there any cooler job than being a hitman? Like
No.
reality, it's like that would not be fun.
No.
That it's I don't think it's cool or anything, but it's like in movie universe, that's like fucking King Chad shit. Like big concrete cock on this motherfucker coming around.
Yeah, like I was toying with the idea of writing a realistic script about a hitman's life who gets caught up in a sting, and in real life, hitmen are generally like aside from the days of the mafia, like there was like some kind of cool guys, whatever, that kind of were like the movie style mobster, whatever hitmen. But in real life, when you look at real true crime shit, like the hitmen are usually like the lowest of the low guys. Like they're like drifter almost that don't have any money, and they're just like so desperate and hard up for work.
Yeah, is the occupation of hitman even a real thing? Would anybody ever really go to the same person? Or like, how could you build a career,
multiple times,
a portfolio, if you will, as a hitman? It's basically, maybe it's just one of those things. Maybe it's just the thing you call yourself when you're unemployed. What if it's just that? Maybe I'm a hitman now.
Well, also too, how many times do you do it before like some form of evidence gets against you, like a witness sees you leaving a house or something? You know what I mean? Like how many times can you really pull it off? Like I want to say too, I love this scene again. This great character scene. Like Jeff Daniels is so fucking intense. Like he comes home to his house and he lives across the street from a golf course, and the guys. They hit a golf ball and hit his window, and it's like the third time they hit it. So he goes over there and he's totally losing his shit, and he pulls his gun out on these guys on the golf course.
Oh yeah, you're basically like you don't know if he's like a good guy, a good cop, or if he's just gonna is he a future school shooter? Like is he fucking going down that kind of mental shit? But like we find out later what's going on with him, baby.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because when they wrap up Jeff Daniels' character, like you don't really see it coming that's going to be the end of his character in the story. Like that's what I think's brilliant. Like they're kind of building him up throughout the movie, like he's going to be a big deal. And then now this is a great, again, like you said, coincidence of people meeting. Like Eric Stoltz is staking out the massage parlor, like watching it. Like he just feels, you don't really know why he's there. He's just kind of feeling guilty. And then we see the outer work actor guy that made the director feel like shit coming out, like looking all guilty, like he just got a hand job from that girl.
Fucking Chad. Fucking, I am so, I am so fucking envious of him. Such a stud.
That he's an old out of work actor that paid for a hand job.
Exactly. Fucking the chick though, Big Stacy.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know.
Hey, you know what? You're seeing the scene where Jeff Daniels is signing that
giant ass card.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, what if this was supposed to be the director's attempt at, like, kind of surrealism? Like, fucking, this is like my Eraserhead moment. Fucking David Lynch.
Terry Gilliam moment.
He's signing a giant fucking birthday card. How big is his son? How big is his son?
It turns out his son is like King Kong sized.
Fucking Clifford outside the house and shit.
Yeah.
The parents bring little scraps of food for him.
Again, that scene where he's signing the giant card, it's obvious like he's divorced. He's in his house by himself. He's got his shirt off. He's sweaty. Like they kind of set up earlier. This like the hottest weekend of the year or whatever. Oh, but the way you see the picture of that his son drew, where it's like the son, the mom, and then like two dads, and one's labeled first daddy, second daddy. It's obvious Jeff Daniels' wife moved on and remarried or has a new boyfriend or whatever. And it's so fucking sad that Jeff Daniels has to sign the birthday card to his son, your first daddy. I'm like, oh my god, like that just.
Yeah, that would do something mentally for somebody like looking at first daddy, fucking like, yeah, there'd be like a weirdness about it. His house kind of looks like Pizza Hut.
It does, pretty dog. But yeah, like the first time we saw Jeff Daniels in the movie, he was looking at a letter, but they don't show you what it is. Now they show you what it is, and it's from the police department saying, "Now, after your psychiatric evaluation, complaints against you, your erratic abuse behavior, it's been deemed that you are not fit for active duty. Please hand in your gun and badge within 48 hours." And then there's that great crane shot where it cranes out from his living room where he's sitting out through the window because his window got busted by the golfer guys. I just love that shot. Like when I saw that the other night, I was just like, oh my god, man, like that's just great fucking directing, that shot. And that's literally the last time you ever see Jeff Daniels in this movie. Like he just exits the movie, and I'm just like, I like that because it's almost like that sad kind of bitter, like real life that doesn't really creep into most movies. You know what I'm saying?
When you said that, I was like, that is his last time. I could have sworn he showed up at the end, didn't he? And like, yeah, maybe he didn't.
No, I mean he's done being cop, so he's not going to be I mean, he wasn't going to investigate that case anyway. Man, like let me say a few foods 3 more times. Everything's a tongue twister for me tonight.
No, I don't know how anybody worked on this movie with these two Stacys and fucking like didn't understand like fucking I am didn't just fucking draw. I'm not worthy. Stacey, yes queen, yes, fucking that chick. Shit.
You know what's funny too is like, because I always watch this movie and I'm like, oh, this is the whatever, teenager Charlize Theron. And I was watching this other night, and I was like watching it in high def, and it's the first time I ever watched the movie in high def, other than obviously seeing it in a movie theater, whatever, 25 years ago. And I was like, damn, Terry Hatcher's really young in this movie too, because I remember Terry Hatcher being a star already. She had already been on that Superman show for a few years and had a couple other movies come out. I'm like, damn, Terry Hatcher's young in this too. And I looked up, like when her birth date was. I'm like, oh, that's because she was like, 30 years old when she made this movie. And I'm like, I'm a decade older than she was when she made this movie. It's crazy.
I'm drawing a blank on who Terry Hatcher is. I'm like, is that Molly's sister? Fucking cousin?
She is Terry Hatcher. I guess we have a Tarantino cameo here too. Lawrence Turney from Reservoir Dogs.
Right there.
plays
right
the
there. That's
neighbor.
right there. If you just saw what I saw, she has that scar on her head now. That's basically when we find out this is a prequel to fucking. She's Harry Potter's mom.
Oh, that it carried over.
Yeah, she gave that to her kid. It's like it's like a weird reality. Like if you're a witch, that's how it works. If fucking like your scars become birthmarks, you're weird. It is weird.
Do you think Voldemort was searching for her too?
Fucking one can hope. One can hope.
I have
I
to
don't know why
say,
it wouldn't be.
I've seen Harry Potter, like all the movies. Like I saw them on Blu-ray maybe about 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's a Zoomer joke. You don't get it.
Well, no, I mean I get it, but I gotta say, like Harry Potter is something that's very hard for me to like follow. Like, but, like I get all the plot ins and outs of Star Wars. When it comes to Harry Potter, I just kind of gotta sit back and just enjoy it for like like a spectacle type movie. You know what I mean?
That's what most movies. Very rarely is there ever a movie that seems like something you gotta fucking like. It's a world and universe you want to live in. Maybe is that something that's just like missing from movies, or is it just something missing from us now that we're not kids anymore, or something?
I think it's missing from movies because, like, if you look at like especially science fiction movies back in the day, like something like Blade Runner, I really think the reason Blade Runner isn't that well liked by a lot of people is Blade Runner spends just as much time setting up just the world and the corporation that they work for and you know what I mean, like in the cars that they fly around, like it spends just as much time as it does the story and the characters. So like, it's like that approach I think leaves a lot of people cold, so they don't really do the world building as much, you know. So yeah, so there is that big cat fight between Terry Hatcher and Charlize Theron. Oh, I was gonna say Terry Hatcher, she was like in movies like as like bit parts probably starting in the late 80s. And I want to say it was like around 93, she did this show called Lois and Clark. And it was like when Superman like wasn't like, well, really when any comic book shit, but especially Superman like wasn't popular, they made this show. And it was more like a weird, I never got into it as a kid. I probably would actually love it if I watched it now at my age. But at the time I couldn't get into it because it was like a weird romantic comedy version of Superman. And she was Lois Lane. Yeah,
I remember that. That's like, would they ever do something like that now? I guess they. Like,
I think they just started a new one, like a Lois and Clark, like not sequel, but like a. There's like a I'm pretty sure there's a new Superman movie or show on right now.
I was thinking more take an already established idea and make it like something like I just thought. Oh, they did that with that fucking what was that? One banana, two banana. The fucking banana splits became a horror
banana splits movie where they turned into a horror movie.
They should literally do that with more things.
So our boy Spader was hiding in the house, and he straight popped out of a closet and shot a female detective into the face, like the forehead. He does not give a fuck. And then our boy Keith Carradine, who we thought was going to be a big deal, and he was like all interested in dating Terry Hatcher now that her husband was dead. He just got popped too.
And basically, our boy here, Eric Stoltz, he's basically involved just by pure fucking coincidence. He's showing up just at the same time the hitman's coming back to fucking tie up some loose ends, if you will.
Yeah. So, like, Terry Hatcher was, like, her career was weird because she did all the bit parts. I want to say it's, like, what's that one, the movie with Stallone and Kurt Russell? I always blank on the name of it. But, she was like Stallone's sister in that or something like that. And she kind of like, you know, had bit parts, and then she did that Superman show, and that kind of, she rode high for like a couple years off of that. She did this movie, and then she was a Bond girl in one of the James Bond movies with Pierce Brosnan. And then she kind of like, drifted through for like, I don't know how many years, another 4 or 5 years. And then she kind of like just faded away. And then all of a sudden that soap opera show that was on at nighttime, Desperate Housewives, came and made her like the big shit. And ever since
she literally should have stayed a huge star just because of this movie. This movie's donk.
Well, I agree. I mean, it's especially if
what's like, her last name exactly?
Who, Terry Hatcher?
Hatcher. See, I tried to make a Molly Hatchet joke earlier, and I wasn't sure if it landed.
Yeah, you were like Molly Hatcher. I'm like, who's Molly Hatcher?
I'm fucking bad. I'm so terrible with fucking name. Like I mix up people, faces, and names so often. It's not cool.
Yeah, but she kind of drifted along until Desperate Housewives brought her back, and I'm glad. I'm sure that probably was the show or the project that really filled up her bank account. You know what I mean?
You think she got that role as a desperate act, like fucking like maybe this show will be the thing I need to fucking rejuvenate my career, or do you think she just gave up by that point? It's like, and then it was another happy accident, Big Chad.
I don't know. I think she was just happy to work. Period. You know what I mean?
Probably,
Because
yeah.
like I was looking at her IMDb, and it was like she was doing like voices in movies, and like
Yeah,
she was on like Seinfeld for like 3 episodes, and I'm like, okay, that's like after she was like had her own series. Like that's a big step down when you star in a TV show for like 3 or 4 years, and then you're like making one-time guest appearances on shows. Like that's
that's
gotta
kind of
feel
like,
bad.
yeah, that's considered like the thing actors do when they're not working. Is that if you're all of a sudden doing a couple episodes of like a cartoon show, they're hiring you for voice acting.
Yeah.
That seems like Matthew Lillard is like that. He's only
Oh
doing
yeah.
fucking. I miss Matthew Lillard. I like me some Lillard.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing voices and stuff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a good paycheck probably, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, these people. Let's be honest. These people have more talent, you know.
Mm,
So I guess we should say we're coming into the home stretch. So basically, like the action climax is Spader is at the house trying to get the money. He has to kill the cops there, and then all of a sudden Eric Stoltz wanders in, and I thought that was a great scene. Remember when Spader like takes one of the dead cops' badges and he pretends to be a cop talking to
mm.
Stoltz, and Stoltz is so fucking stupid he doesn't catch on. Like what's
Hell
going
yeah.
on? And then Charlize
Fucking.
Theron shows up because she had a cat fight with Terry Hatcher, and the gun went off, and she got shot. And
I think Stoltz only fell for it because like he's a fucking dork. He's not very well. The fucking dork wears a life preserver. He thinks he's gonna drown or something, basically.
well, it's funny too because like Jeff Daniels called it with Eric Stoltz was being very low T in this film. Like he didn't have what it takes to be a cop or a detective because Stoltz was whining about how he's applied for detective like 7 times and he gets turned down. It's like, well, there's a reason, you know. And
Oh
like I said before, most movies would flip that and be like, oh, but he actually was a good detective and he solved the murders, and they're like, no, like he's a dumbass.
yeah, fucking. You like yeah, like that is kind of a thing in movies. They always think like, oh, fucking, your worth as a fucking a person is defined by how well you do your job. It's like some people don't fucking like they're good people. They fucking who cares? Fucking it's just what I do. Fucking biggity bam. I come home and I'm fucking the good shit happens. Fucking big concrete cock.
So while Spader's got all this shit going on with killing the cops and stuff in the house up on the hill, like they, the house where Danny Aiello was holed up taking everybody hostage, that's like right down the street, literally. And now he's finally making his move, trying to get out of town. Like he's taking everybody with him, like in the car, and they're just going to like drive him somewhere and drop him off so he can make his getaway. But like the thing that was kind of interesting, even though like he had to knock out the art dealer guy because he was being too whiny about his kidney stones. But it's really interesting because it's almost like a shit. I just blanked on it. But the Stockholm Syndrome is everybody
Mm.
ends up liking Danny Aiello even though he's holding them hostage at gunpoint. Like, did you kind of notice that?
Yeah, he's kind of hitting it off with the maid lady who they kind of set her up that she's kind of like fucking stuck taking care of this fucking guy. It's a total like at one point he says like, oh, you should get like you should get some plastic surgery. Fucking a man would like come on to you, and like she looks at him like, how could you say that? And like, well, you can tell there isn't even like an inch of him that even thought that was like a bad thing to say.
Rude.
He's just
Yeah.
yeah, he's just super like rich and like fucking all that shit. So it's like, yeah, fucking, and then she finds, the character she needed, baby, fucking Big Chad, to come and take his fucking his fake toupee off and fucking let it blow in the wind, baby.
That's exactly what happens in the movie.
Fucking, it was all spelled out.
It's great though. I mean, I don't know. It's good storytelling because you watch that relationship between him and her develop throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side is you have Spader here, who's like the Grim Reaper. Once Charlize Theron shows up, she's been shot. She just wants to go to a hospital, but He's like, no, I gotta kill you. I'm gonna put you out of your misery. Like instantly, he just goes to like, there's no saving this girl. I don't give a shit. He's just looking out for himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like she does a good job of kind of conveying that, like, oh yeah, of course he's gonna do this. He's a fucking hitman. I'm a loose end. He's gonna kill me now. But like, yeah, well, luckily, fucking she's able to slip out while he's distracted here in a minute. Big Stacy.
Yeah, this was a nice one. Maybe a little bit unbelievable that she could get up off the couch and run out without him hearing or whatever, because he's just like a few feet away. But but still, like story wise, like it was one of those things. Like she showed up in such a hurry after she'd been shot. She was in such a panic, and then it was like she didn't really think things through the way Spader would react to that. You know what I mean? Like she should have just drove herself to the hospital and been like, "Oh, like some guy tried to rob me and shot me." Like she should have made up a story like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like we should come up with the fucking Satyr or Spader the Satyr fucking t-shirt design. Fucking just our boy Spader with a huge fucking concrete cock.
Well, it's just on the top. It's like the top half of his body, and it says Spader. And then underneath, like the point where it's like the horse legs and the big penis coming up underneath the penis, it says the Satyr.
Exactly. He's gonna fuck you like a beast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's done lots of movies where he fucks like a beast. Speaking of fucking like a beast, did you know Wasp? You know that band Wasp? I was like, every now and then, like when I'm playing video games or when I'm working, I turn on Spotify and I just look up like random albums of bands that like, not bands that I was a fan of, but that I just remember. I was like, oh, I remember, like I was in the mood for like 80s hair metal one day. I'm like, I remember there's this band called Wasp. Like but I didn't really remember any of their songs. So I'm like, let me play one of their albums. So I played one of their first albums, and like, it starts out, fuck like a beast. They have a song called "Fuck Like a Beast" by Wasp.
Chad.
It's a very Chad move.
That was a band I never listened. Like I couldn't tell you how they sound. I know they exist. I never listened to them.
I listened to that whole album that day. It wasn't bad. It honestly really wasn't. It was very like almost cartoony hair metal. Yeah. So Spader's gun jammed, so he had to go and steal Stoltz's gun, and that was like the 2 seconds that Charlize took. So she runs out like whatever onto the road in front of the house, like bleeding to death. And the director said it was crazy because this was actually, so she like wanders out there, she almost gets hit by a car, and then next the car load with Danny Aiello and everybody else comes up, and Danny Aiello sees what's going on. But that was actually the first scene that Charlize filmed, like of anything ever, not just this movie, but anything ever. And it's like pretty shocking when you look at it, because like she's like really dying at this point. She's about to die, and even when you watch it, you don't think she's going to die. You think, oh, she got away, she got help. Like they won't kill the girl in this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a good performance too. It's not bad.
I think the thing that's really good, because they set up earlier in the movie that she's supposed to be Swedish, and she just goes into talking, a bunch of like just Swedish like gibberish. You know what I mean? And it's like it really does play well. Yeah.
That's a shocking scene. Like, she slowly stops, and then like I thought it'd be like for some reason like that shot is extended, and she like pulls the thing to cover her face, and I thought it'd be funny if like before it like cut away, she said like she's sleeping, and then it cut, and for some reason I thought that was so funny. Yeah. Like fucking just she's sleeping. Like after that big dramatic like death scene. Well, she fell asleep.
Well, I think it's kind of cool too, because I mean, we did see Spader kill the cops a little bit earlier, so like I mean, it kind of reminded you, like you snap out that this is a movie where people can get killed. But I mean, the cops were like kind of like background characters. I think really Charlize Theron dying right here, like it's very necessary for the story, because it just kind of reminds you of like actually how serious this shit is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, these are hitmen. This is a hitman. This is a guy you don't want to be fucking. That you don't want to know, let alone be on the bad side of. Oh yeah.
Exactly. Cover her face up. She's sleeping.
For some reason, that just entered my mind, and I thought that was super funny.
No, I'm going to give a 10 out of 10 to the house that Terry Hatcher lives in. It's very Chad. It's like wooden, chalet-like, but it's very fancy at the same time. I love this house.
It is. It's a very donk. Better than the fucking Pizza Hut thing that they showed earlier. Wait, that is it. Fucking, I'm dumb. But yeah, there's our boy, fucking Eric Stoltz. He just got shot. Will Eric Stoltz not make it through the movie? Like we don't know. We just saw like who we thought was like the big selling character die. Very, it breaks the rules.
And I always thought too, because like Spader earlier in the movie when he's talking to ILO, he reveals that he knew his history, that there was a job that got fucked up, and Danny Aiello is like a washout now, so nobody would hire him, and Danny Aiello is talking about like, yeah, I appreciate you giving me this chance, at a comeback and all this kind of thing. So it's like, I like that, like, you have two hitmen, but they're like completely different, like personalities, like you even though like he like maybe he's a killer, maybe he's not, but like Danny Aiello like obviously has more like, I guess you would say, like a code of honor and respect, and James Spader is just more like just a psychopath, kills for money. You know what I mean? Like I like that distinction between the two characters.
Fucking here we go.
Yeah, great standoff with the Aiello and Spader shooting each other. Aiello's behind a tree, Spader's in the house. Eric Stoltz is just like out in the open, getting shot at. Finally, Spader shoots him in the leg just to taunt him.
Oh yeah, he was wearing a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny because we even knew earlier in the movie that's how Aiello survived the first time, was he had a bulletproof vest. But the way they played his quote unquote death scene in slow motion when Spader shoots him in the back a bunch of times, you really do get the feeling that he died, right? Like
yeah, I did, yeah. They're banking on you're just gonna forget about it because like we established that in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Like maybe he wasn't wearing it because he was trying to do his getaway. He wasn't thinking anybody would be shooting at him. Like you don't know.
Mm-hmm. He kind of did look like fucking bootleg Michael J. Fox in that one shot.
Yeah,
but you might be a little bit behind again. Man. My bad.
Yeah, I'm at the point where Spader's about to get shot. So I guess we should set up that Paul Mazurski's character. He had that gun with him earlier. I think the way they set it up, it seemed like he only had one bullet in the gun. But anyway, he had that gun earlier, and he kind of pops up out of nowhere. Not really out of nowhere, because he was down on the street where Charlize Theron was bleeding to death. But, it's one of those things where we don't know that he's there, and he kind of just pops up the last second to shoot Spader. And I would say that's the only part of the ending to me that's like a little bit too Hollywood corny. I kind of always hate it when people just pop up out of nowhere at the end of the movie and shoot somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, story-wise, it's the right thing to happen, though.
Yeah. Our boy here, whenever he's like... this whole back and forth that's happening where he saves him and everything, like the way his hair is, I don't know if this is the wig or like with his real hair, like something about him reminds me of the fucking character from what's it called, Trailer Park Boys, the fucking the one dude with the black shirt.
He looks like JP, yeah, especially with the goatee. Yeah.
I thought I'd noticed that both times watching it. You know what too, like when I watched this last night, I was like, man, that was like looking up for I originally I was like, that's an 8, like definitely at least, and then like fucking I put it and I was shocked by like, whoa, why is this so underrated? Like, and there was that whole thing. But like watching it again, it's like fucking. I'm noticing, and like it's got that kind of like the warm and toasty feeling that those movies that become 9s or 10s eventually have. Yeah. Like it's got it. It's definitely got it, baby.
Yeah, I mean, to me personally, because I've just always loved this movie. It's just one of those things where it's like, some people like comic book movies, some people like comedies, whatever. Like, this is like really my wheelhouse. Just like. Mm-hmm. Like kind of independent movies with a big cast and a lot of different characters and
mine too, yeah.
Like I love it, and like because like usually when I pull one of these out, like like I've been wanting to do this movie and it's available somewhere, and I ask you, oh, we should do it, and then like you're I like much thanks to you, you're always down to do it, but it's like probably like 3/4 of the time you're kind of like, yeah, I didn't really like this movie that much. So like, because at first I was like, oh yeah, you want to do this, and you're like, oh, I've never heard it, because I was like, are you a fan of it? And you're like, oh, I've never heard of it, never seen it, whatever. And I'm like, oh, like I really hope he doesn't hate this movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like fucking. I was surprised. It's like, how is this? Like that's where I felt like fucking like am I crazy now? Fucking.
Well, to be fair, it's not even one of those movies where people are like, "Yeah, that was forgettable" or "That was middle of the road." People don't even remember that this movie existed. Period.
Yeah, I never heard of it. Yeah.
So yeah,
And you think like as long as you know and like fucking what you think like if it had like because I did see that was a common thing, people were comparing it to Pulp Fiction.
yeah,
So I was thinking like you would think it would be remembered even negatively for having
right.
that stigma, but it's not. It's just like it's just like it's wiped from people's memories. Yeah.
So yeah, basically the wrap up is Paul Mazurski. He's not suicidal anymore. He becomes friends with the lady who was a nurse. Terry Hatcher just escaped and got away. She had a car stash, so she drove away.
He found his meaning to life. Like he fucking he didn't kill himself, and it like he eventually fucking his life had better purpose. Like fucking he has no reason to kill himself. But Big Chad over here now.
And then the movie ends in the best way possible with Danny Aiello realizing he doesn't need to wear a wig because he's got a Stacy girlfriend now.
Exactly. He just throws it. Fuck that shit. And she looking pretty Stacy here, driving in the back of that car.
Yeah, like the director was saying he was like really good friends with Danny Aiello, and he was saying like Danny Aiello is a insomniac. He never sleeps, except like early in the morning. And he said like about every 6 months he would get a call from Danny Aiello at 2:30 in the morning saying, "You got to make the sequel where you see what happened to us when we drove away and started our own pizzeria with the money and all this shit."
Fucking he writes a sequel, and then like they flip their vet. They hit a fucking like a boulder just after the scene cuts, and he's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
That ending, the way the camera panned over, showed the mountain, and then we're seeing the credits. It reminded me of the ending of Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
The same like a landscape, and then the credits running over it.
It's so funny. Like I'm watching the part with the wig shit, and it's like it's so like how would you?
I keep forgetting it's a little. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. But I'm just saying it's just funny. Like how would you go completely bald on the top of your head, but still have like some hair right in the front?
Big Chad.
It's so crazy. You know, and she's always like, "Oh, you look better without the wig." I kind of gotta disagree. I think he had the right idea with the wig.
Fucking probably like yeah. You either just you don't rock a bald spot like that. You either cut it or you fucking
shave it. Nobody will know. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but I was gonna say I was such a big fan of this movie. This is how much of a mark I am. I was such a fan of this movie when I actually moved to the Valley. This was the first movie I watched in my apartment. So I was like, I'm in the Valley. I gotta watch 2 Days in the Valley. And watched it on my DVD on my 20-inch Sony TV.
That's the Rick Astley meme they show for our boy Spader's credit. So you're gonna see it.
Yeah, it does that old timey thing where like it shows a little bit of like the end credits, like the regular all the producers, whatever, and then it goes back into the cast and like the slow motion thing.
They did that a lot in the '90s. Like Scream did that. It was kind of a thing for a while, in the '90s.
It was kind of was a big thing in the '70s and early '80s, and then like they didn't do it for a while, and then like probably like the mid to late '90s they started bringing it back as like a nostalgia thing, you know. It's like everybody turns around in slow motion and then it freeze frames and then you see their name, you know.
Big Chad. I enjoy it. I think it's a cool way to do it. Like
I like it too because it's that thing where I really like seeing what moment of the person's performance that they focus on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that is interesting too.
To do like the freeze frame on,
Like I remember I rewatched The Faculty recently, and that's a movie I always thought that's kind of known as a Scream ripoff, but I think that was like the best one. And like that one ends like that too, like Scream did. And like the scene they show whenever it's fucking what's his name, fucking John Stewart I mentioned earlier, from the Daily Show. They use like a scene that was like cut out of the movie, and it's fucking it kind of breaks the fourth wall because you think for a second that they're acknowledging that something happened after the movie ended, and it's not reused footage, but it's crazy, very Chad.
I know exactly what you mean, because there's a few times where like you watch those those cast montages, and it's like, oh yeah, that was the moment where this guy did this, and then sometimes people who didn't have a real big part for whatever, they like use some part that you don't remember from the movie, and you're like, what, like, you know.
Yeah, it's like going to see the trailer, and then the trailer has a deleted scene, and then you watch the movie, you're like, where the fuck was that scene? Fucking, you feel ripped off. They gave me a gimped movie.
Yeah. So I gotta say, I mean, obviously, thanks for taking a chance on a movie you weren't familiar with and everything like that. But I'm actually, out of all the movies that we kind of done this, where I'm kind of like, oh, you want to watch this, whatever. It actually makes me very happy that this was like the one that you actually end up liking quite a bit. So.
Dog, hopefully I did the fucking movie justice, fucking not knowing too much about it coming in, baby. Oh my God, look, the second unit credit, is that Comic Sans they're using as the font? You never use Comic Sans, that's a meme. You never do that.
Comic Sans is like the most unprofessional font there is.
I couldn't tell that. It might just be the mindset. I mean, for some reason it's looking like that to me. Maybe it's not.
Yeah. But and there's, I don't know, like I can't really describe it, but there's like certain like magic quality this movie has, where like, especially when you watch it now, but I think even back then there's like a certain, like, I don't know how you describe it, like old timey, just a classic feeling to this movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's just because the cast is so big and so good. You know,
feels like a classic Hollywood in a way, even though it's like. Fucking, was that ever a real thing? Who knows? The sub works about it though.
And obviously the title, 2 Days in the Valley, because it really does happen. You know, it starts out late at night, one night, and then the majority of the movie takes place over the day, the next day, and then it's one of those things where, you know, through the night and kind of the beginning of the next morning. So it really is like exactly like a 48-hour period, and like, yeah. I don't know why, like, it doesn't matter, like, the genre of the movie or what, like, I love movies that take place, like, pretty much, like, all in one day like that, you know what I mean? But, like, a lot of big, heavy shit happens. Like, I don't know, it's just, like, a cool concept that I like a lot.
Yeah. And it's, like, it's clever to fucking basically you feel like you're just it's kind of like a fly on the wall movie. It's just a bunch of people interacting, and you're a fly on the wall, and you're just seeing 2 days taking place in the valley.
Exactly. I still think that, well, I guess maybe people wouldn't have known what it meant back then, but you definitely, maybe they should do like a Blu-ray re-release and just change the title, like how they did with that Tom Cruise movie.
Oh yeah,
like how it became Edge of Tomorrow, or it was Edge of Tomorrow and became Live Die Repeat. They should change this from 2 Days in the Valley to 2 Stacy's in the Valley. So
amazing! Oh yes.
And then all the well-hung chads with tight circumcisions would go and watch it.
Fucking chads, exactly. It's got the fucking king chad with the most fucking straight-laced, fucking big, like the fucking the precision with which James Spader's cock was circumcised when he was born. It's razor sharp. Like fucking, you should give that doctor the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm slurring my speech over here. It's so fucking wonderful.
And you know the thing that's kind of shocking about it, because he always kind of plays these like white collar type characters and stuff. Like if you actually look into James Spader's past, he actually didn't come from money at all. Like very, you know, blue collar, lower class, whatever background. So I mean, that doctor who did that circumcision, he did it out of the kindness of his own heart. He wasn't getting paid a lot of money to do that. You know, I was going to say earlier too, I was going to refer to Charlize as a well-hung Stacy with a tight circumcision. But no, that sounds kind of crass. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But she might be circumcised, because there's she's from a lot of people don't know this, but Charlize Theron is actually from South Africa. And they probably don't do it there, but you ever hear about over in Africa, just in general, they do the female circumcisions, like in the tribes and stuff?
Exactly. That is fucking cringe. That is cringe.
Could you imagine if Charlize Theron, like you're lucky enough to see her take her bottom off, and it just like was all smooth because she had been circumcised so tight?
Like, you think that's how it works? Like, a fucking all of a sudden they're just like a Barbie doll.
Yeah,
It's just
like a
like
Barbie
smooth.
Ken doll. Yeah, just all smooth.
Exactly.
Because it just becomes like skin over the pubic bone. They trim so much back. You know what I mean?
Fucking. How do you cut a hole out?
Yeah.
Fucking.
How do you take his face off? Could you imagine somebody getting their face circumcised off?
I just slightly chuckled at a fucking female genital mutilation joke, and like I got like a weird feeling. Like, that's something I shouldn't. That should never be joked about.
Did it? Was it because I took 3 minutes to set it up? It made you feel strange.
Fucking, it was just like, that is not the kind of, like, fucking just all the weirdness. Fucking, that's almost like making a Holocaust joke. Fucking, there's some things you just don't touch. Fucking, it almost seems fucking low T to fucking go there, baby.
Mm-hmm. So I have one of those old school ass DVDs where it's like one of the bonus features is they actually put some text up of the cast. Do you ever see those?
Hell yeah.
Like the biography. Well, this is the Charlize Theron biography, and it's so interesting now because you got to think this movie came out in like '96, but this DVD probably didn't come out till like '99, 2000 something.
Wow,
So it's like it's trying to be all up to date with telling you like her newest movies, but they're all like shit. So it says Charlize Theron made her feature film debut in the starring role of Helga in 2 Days in the Valley. She went on to her second role in the Tom Hanks film That Thing You Do. Her next role was in the comedy Trial and Error, which reunited her with 2 Days in the Valley co-star Jeff Daniels.
Amazing.
Charlize Theron was born and raised in a small town in South Africa. She was circumcised at the age of 8 and never recovered. No, I'm sorry.
She was circumcised at birth.
Yeah.
Big, well hung.
Well,
Chad. What if it just started talking like us?
This DVD from 20 years ago. It's like, oh shit. No, it says she was raised in a small town in South Africa. So I mean, the practice could have been practiced there. We don't know. It says she began modeling at the age of 14 and 2 years later began working in Milan and Paris. She lived in New York and Miami before moving to Los Angeles in 1993. Charlize was born in 1975. And that's how it ends.
I remember thinking, like, Charlize Theron too. She's one of those ladies that, like, the way she looks now is she's still like she's very Stacy now. Like, she looks good as an older woman too. Like, fucking yeah, that's what sucks about like Hollywood. They stop hiring them once they get the MILF. Like, that's when they're in the prime, when they have that MILF look. Baby.
That's when you should be like. That's the one thing that the porn business does actually better than the regular movie business is. Exactly. Porn business don't discriminate. They see the value. So her filmography on here is 2 Days in the Valley 1996, That Thing You Do 1996, Trial and Error 1997, and The Devil's Advocate 1997. That's it.
Fucking, that's the first time I ever saw was in The Devil's Advocate.
Was it?
I enjoy that movie.
Yeah, I think
the Reeves is a big Chad, I think.
Now because you're younger than me. I mean, I saw this movie too when it came out, but you're younger than me. You might remember it too. Do you remember when she was in the Disney's version of the Mighty Joe Young remake?
I do. That's another movie. Like, whenever I think of Charlize Theron, that's what I was thinking. I either think of that movie and then I was kind of weird on it. I was like, I swear to God, she was in like a Disney movie where she was with a big giant monkey. You know, I wanted to say it was like Mighty Joe Young, and like I did. I remember. She had like short hair in that movie, didn't she?
Yeah. And that was like I remember when that movie came out, that was like, because, you know, I had pretty much seen her in all her stuff. I even saw Trial and Error. I remember me and my friend, that was kind of like a bomb of a comedy, but me and my buddy went to see it because it had Kramer from Seinfeld in it.
Oh, yes.
But before he broke out his most racy material.
Before he lost his mind in front of a group of audience. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if I told you this when we did Prom with Child, but I saw like I was always a fan of that guy. Like, I loved him since I was a kid because I told you he was on that show Fridays when I was a kid, talking about Michael Richards. I saw him. I was walking into a comedy club for like the late set, and he was walking out. I guess he had performed. He probably did the earlier set. And he walked by me, and that was like, I'm not shitting you, because like when all that shit went down and his career got ruined, I couldn't believe it because I was like so excited. I walked right past Michael Richards. It was like a week later that shit happened to him, and I was like, oh my God. And like I even thought at the time, was like, if I could have just known, I would have stopped and told him.
Michael Richards, dude, I'm from the future.
Dude, my name is Ted Theodore Logan. Now you're about to do a set Saturday night next Saturday at the Laugh Factory, and it's gonna go really bummer, dude. So you gotta go with me to this phone booth, and we gotta go back.
How do you explain that to him, though? In a sign of weakness or something, you say something really fucking stupid, dude. Don't do that.
Even if you time traveled and you did, he'd be like, oh, what? No, I would never say that. I would never call a man that 38 times in a row.
Exactly. Fucking,
but yeah.
Exactly. That fucking the things we would do if we had the Bill and Ted fucking magic.
I know. Oh, we would fix everything. I was gonna say, I'm looking at the DVD like case. It's like a bunch of, or not the case, but the menu, and it's got a picture of the dog, the whatever pit bull dog that was swimming in the pool. He's actually wearing the sunglasses in this version. Which of the sunglasses were like giant. Those were like sunglasses that would go on a Transformer robot. They wouldn't fit on that dog's face.
They were basically saying the fucking future's really bright for the dog now. They were trying to tell us fucking that dog must have been in a lot of movies. He was probably the only one that fucking had a really big career after that. Well, I guess everybody did, but not because of the movie, but fucking, despite the movie.
Well, he was actually having a really hot career after this movie, and even better than Charlize Theron. And then unfortunately, because dogs only live to be about 10 years old, he passed away. So
fucking the big tragedy of a dog's life. Hell yeah.
Doesn't that bum you out when like you watch movies like old, like not they don't even have to be like movies from 30 years ago, but just like movies from like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and you're like, oh, I bet that dog or cat is probably dead already.
Exactly. Fucking the thought of like a pet dying, and then you think about that when you're supposed to be enjoying a film.
Yeah.
The low lifespan of animals really is fucking low T, and like fucking when we become president and fucking on the communist platform, we need to look into fucking extending the lives of dogs and cats.
Oh, I would do it. I would like fuck all this cancer and AIDS research. We need to find if there was like, what do you call it, like a fountain of youth, but it only worked on animals, and you would just let people travel there and dip their pets into it.
I am putting you on that job. Like, you are the guy in charge of looking for how to harness fuck nuclear energy. We're moving on to the more cleaner option, the big cum energy. Exactly. And you're gonna be the guy that I put in charge. We're gonna solve the world with the fucking cum energy. We're gonna do it.
Well, you ever see like them Dunkin' Donuts commercials where they're like, I forget what did they say, but like they say something like the world runs on Dunkin' or whatever. I'm like, no, the world doesn't run on Dunkin'. The world runs on some other substance, and we know what it is now. So time to stop listening to the science the way everybody's been. Get your head out of the ass and listen to the properties of eternal life, pretty much.
Big cum. Fucking the machines can run on cum. Everything can run on cum. We can be fucking reproducing, fucking recycling pea water, all that shit, all this stuff that fucking what's his name's doing. Fucking Mr. I invented the internet or the computer or whatever. Fucking Microsoft. He can shut up. Fucking big cum energy is where it's at.
I bet whoever's still listening to this episode is probably regretting it right now.
The big cum memes. They're always fun.
They're always fun for us, but they probably not so fun for anybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, again, thanks for doing this, and like this probably won't come out for, I don't know, another month or something like that. But in real time, in the real lifetime, you just dropped a very Chad episode that, like, not only can you like listen to, you can see it with Cinema Enema, right? We're talking about Land of the Dead.
Oh yeah, fucking Revival House, fucking on YouTube, Revival House Network. We are putting out shit all the time. Fucking BTM podcast, Mac and Zach Save the World. Fucking, it's always happening. Fucking make a home here.
Yeah, I can't remember if we recorded episodes since you unveiled to the world the based buds. Tell them about that.
The fucking bass buds. Yeah, me and Mac, we did like a commentary for Halloween 3, and like we were able to make it into a video commentary now because we're doing video, and like so we made a little mashup to try to get some people looking through the YouTubes, and maybe like some normies land on our shit, and then maybe they listen to the fucking by accident they just end up listening to a podcast all about coming in socks and then wearing the socks. But like fucking yeah, basically we just made a big mashup, and like hell yeah, fucking you can find that on there too. That's good shit.
Exactly, making JFS proud.
Our boy,
big time. So yeah, so that's I guess that's it, guys. It's such a treat, and I don't even know why. Like, I mean, this definitely is like one of those movies on the bucket list before this show ends one day. I definitely wanted to get in there. So again, thank you, Zach, for coming and doing it with me and enjoying it as much as you did. And probably nobody can follow along to this in real time because I was constantly a minute behind Zach was. So, but either way, hopefully, as far as I know, there's only 2 or 3 people that actually really legit follow through. But anyway, we appreciate it. If you guys like the show, especially after we just talked about coming for 20 minutes, help us out and just leave a rating or review somewhere. We appreciate it very much. I don't understand it, but as Aaron explains it, it helps the algorithm, baby.
It does. The fucking the machines run on cum, and we're feeding the machines.
Exactly. I think all the what do you call it? The statues and art that was making all that noise and vibrating in that guy's house in this movie, I think those definitely ran on it.
Exactly. Fucking semen junkies.
Boom. So anyway, that's it. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you right back here next time in the movie graveyard.
Dog.
You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. For more great shows, visit electronicmediacollective.com.